Hello friends and welcome back to Picture Astrology. In this quick video we will talk about one of the very strong position of Saturn, that is in the sign of Libra, and this is a sign in which Saturn becomes exalted. And due to this exaltation, Saturn definitely remains in a very strong as well as comfortable position. And this position does impart many great qualities to the person. But this doesn't come without its own pitfalls. Remember, every position in astrology has possible pitfalls. And in this video, we will, as always, focus on the practical aspect of this placement of Saturn in Libra, understand how this impacts your personality and other aspects of life, and in the end, also talk about one of the very important hurdle which almost all the classics have talked about related to exalted Saturn position. So Saturn is considered to be the slowest planet in Vedic astrology, and it is also the coldest. It represents discipline and dispassionate nature. Saturn doesn't like emotions or any kind of attachment, and therefore it is also the planet which shows justice. And more specifically, social justice, justice in public life, in public world, in society. And it also represents society and masses, the lowest strata in the society, which have always contributed to be the maximum number of people in the world. And properties of Libra is also very much like this. You see the sign of scale, which is the sign of justice. Every lady justice has this Libra in its hand. It is ruled by Venus, and Saturn and Venus are best of the friends. The friendship between these two planets is probably the most intense which exists among any two planets. And it's an airy sign, and air quality goes very much hand in hand with the slow, cold and dispassionate nature of Saturn. We saw that Saturn doesn't like emotions, and air is devoid of emotions. The basic quality of air is to dry things up, and emotions are moist, emotions are wet, emotions are watery sign. Air signs are hardcore logic, which is needed for producing justice, which Saturn very much likes. So definitely this environment of Libra is very, very conducive for Saturn. So the first thing you can see in a person who has exalted Saturn or Saturn in Libra is that they really love discipline in their life. Now you can clearly see that they will keep their things very well organized. If you look at their closet, if you look at their room, if you look at their bed, if you look at their clothes, they will keep everything nicely arranged. They will keep everything in order. And this will especially be more pronounced if this Saturn aspects ascendant or has anything to do with ascendant or the moon. Because then the impact on the personality will become much more pronounced and much more visible. And especially when Saturn affects, exalted Saturn affects ascendant or moon, these people could, at least in one or two behaviors, could be very finicky. Means they could be really, really particular about one or two things. Like some people might be absolutely averse to, any kind of dust. Or I have experienced people, with Saturn in ascendant or exalted Saturn, and they just cannot stand any kind of bug around them. They kind of feel disgusted to an extreme level. And Saturn like this, exalted Saturn, especially when affecting ascendant or moon, does provide at least one or two tendencies like this. But in general, because the planet of discipline is so strong and exalted, they will have a tendency to keep everything nice, tight and organized. And most of the times this mantra pretty much satisfies their life, that everything should have a place and everything on its place. This exalted placement of Saturn definitely gives a great liking to this principle of life. But one very good part because of this exalted Saturn is that even though these people love discipline in their own life, yet they generally do not trouble others or do not poke nose into other people's life. You know what I mean by that is, many times other placement of Saturn, and we will talk about those placement when we talk about Saturn in different signs. So other placement of Saturns also give love of discipline. Okay, there are many placements, especially the Nichbhanga Saturn, that can really give person, that can make a person really finicky. They would also want things in very proper order. But what happens, or what is good about Saturn exalted, is that they do not enforce the same discipline in people around them. And now I'm not talking about people who are very closely associated with them, like spouse and kids and mother and father, not the blood relations. But say you are friends with them and you share an apartment or room, then they are not going to poke their nose in your affair. They are not going to expect that you also keep your room really clean and neat and tidy. No, they would like to keep themselves and their surrounding well, but they wouldn't poke or intrude into your territory and ask you to also keep things tidy and clean and neat. And that relates to another very important property of exalted Saturn, is that they believe in justice. They do not like to impose and be a dictator. No, they don't like to be dictator and impose their rules on you. And people with Saturn exalted especially have a love for socialism at times. Now, for this to happen, fiery planets like Mars and Sun, they play a very important role. They generally have to be quite weak. I am not saying or not suggesting that everybody who has exalted Saturn would love socialism. No. But what I'm saying is, everybody who has exalted Saturn has special liking towards justice. They do not like to impose their rules on others. Now, this situation obviously changes with every ascendant, because in certain ascendant, Saturn becomes lord of trick houses or houses which shows dictatorship tendency, houses which shows aggressive nature, houses which shows ability to impose on to others. So if Saturn is lord of such houses, then an exalted Saturn will give different tendencies. Right now we are talking about general effects of Saturn, and exalted Saturn generally likes to see masses happy, everybody happy, not just one or two king or rich people. No, Saturn doesn't represent rich people. Saturn represents masses. And an exalted Saturn will also give you support from masses easily. If you are a businessman, or if you are working in an office and you are a boss, then you will get support of your subordinates easily. You will get support from your factory workers easily. And that is because you treat them with justice. And at the same time, keeping a fair behavior in your business, in dealing with laborers, in dealing with people who report to you, subordinates or your office colleagues, or just your public dealings in general, is very, very important when you have Saturn in this house, or when you have Saturn in this sign, because all these activities are going to further fuel the good karmas of Saturn. Because remember, your karmas actually are the ones, your past karmas is what has given you Saturn exalted in Libra. But if your current karma is not good, then over a period of time, Saturn, which is the planet of justice, that will catch up with you. Now, another important thing about the Saturn in Libra sign is, Libra is the natural sign of relationships. And obviously, these people like to be just and give everybody equal rights and responsibility in relationships. So they generally tend to be quite fair in their relationship, and at the same time quite committed also, because Saturn is the slowest planet. It doesn't give up easily, okay? Saturn, if they're committed in a relationship, they really like to have a long-lasting relationship. And this is where a caveat also comes into play. See, though Saturn is exalted, the lord of Saturn here is Venus, and Venus represents woman. Now, generally, Venus is the karka of women with which you are in some kind of romantic relationship, okay? Venus is not moon. Venus is pleasure. Venus is romantic relationship. Venus is companionship with someone of your age. So basically, Saturn here is ruled by woman, and among other things, Saturn represents your purva debt or debts of your past life. And although it is exalted, that means whatever debt you have could be easily payable in this life, yet it is a debt which you have to repay. And since it is controlled by women, the way your life situation unfolds in which you have to repay these debts, repay the purva papas if you want to call it, that could happen through some or the other kind of woman. Now, what it really means is the kind of relationship you get into, you are anyways going to be careful because of Saturn's placement in Libra gives that cautious tendency. But in case Saturn is anyways afflicted, okay, if there is any kind of affliction or weakness, especially if the Saturn is afflicted in the D9 chart, Navamansa chart, because that also shows your romantic relationship, then you have to be extra careful about the kind of activities you indulge in the search of pleasure, in the search of romantic relationships. And this was one of the caveat I was referring to at the beginning of this video. So friends, there are 100 other things which we can talk about if we start considering, the kind of other aspects which this Saturn can receive. We will definitely go into more details when we talk about Saturn for each ascendant separately, because ascendant can really give greater insights, more specificity to any placement of planet in sign in your chart. So friends, this was my quick analysis of Saturn in Libra. Thank you so much for watching so far with me, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.